Good evening. The White House says it's official. Tariffs of 25% on imports from Canada will begin tomorrow.
Donald Trump says Canadian oil will be included in his tariff plan, though likely at a lower rate and later date. Many on this side of the border are scrambling for details on the U.S. plan tonight. CTV's Rachel Aiello has the latest.
Midday indications Canada could avoid tariffs until March were short-lived. The U.S. president is going ahead with his plan to hit Canada with massive trade action.
They've treated us very unfairly.
Donald Trump will be implementing a 25% import tariff on Canada tomorrow.
We have big deficits, and it's something we're doing, and we'll possibly very substantially increase it or not. We'll see how it is.
According to a senior government source, the federal government has yet to receive any official word or confirmation on the tariff imposition timeline from the Trump administration. Bracing for Canada to be hit hard as soon as Saturday, Justin Trudeau said,
"If tariffs are implemented against Canada, we will respond. We won't relent until tariffs are removed, and of course, everything is on the table."
His comment didn't sit well with Trump's chief spokesperson.
And I think Justin Trudeau would be wise to talk to President Trump directly before pushing outlandish comments like that.
Federal officials are in D.C. today, pumping up their border security plan, a last-minute effort to avoid a trade war. Regardless of when the tariffs hit, the Canadian economy and the loonie could be in for a hard time.
This is 2.6% to Canada's GDP. And to put that in real terms, that means $1,900 a year per Canadian.
Canada's premiers are bracing for that impact.
President Trump is hell-bent on undermining Canada, our workers, our economy, our quality of life. When tariffs come, they'll devastate Canada's economy. Hundreds of thousands of jobs are at risk.
Trump's tariffs will cost American consumers, too, to the tune of $1,300 per household, a factor Trump's press secretary didn't acknowledge. She said the details of the tariff package will be made public in around 24 hours. Rachel Aiello, CTV News, Ottawa.
The looming tariffs were front and center on the provincial election campaign trail today.
All of the leaders were out on the trail making their pitch to voters. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris is live tonight with the latest. Siobhan?
Well, Doug Ford said this was his reason, really, for triggering the election in the first place. So tariffs certainly were his focus today. We also heard Marit Stiles, the leader of the NDP, make an appeal to auto workers. But we also heard other issues on the campaign trail, like health care and transit. With the heat turning up on an apparent impending trade war.
Who attacks your number one customer? I'll tell you, no one does, except Donald Trump.
Progressive Conservative leader Doug Ford insists the province and the country will be ready to hit back, even if the specifics of the tariff threat and the timing have been hard to follow.
Secretary Rubio will say something, and the president says something. They have to get their comms down pat.
In this time of uncertainty, Ford says it's the time to build, securing paychecks for people on job sites.
We will invest an additional $22 billion into our government's nearly $200 billion plan to build.
Fast-tracking projects like widening the QEW between St. Catharines and Burlington. NDP leader Marit Stiles appeared alongside auto workers in Windsor, vowing to fight for their jobs in the face of tariffs.
We're going to take care of people through actions that are going to secure you and your family, like income protection.
Stiles couldn't offer any specifics of that plan, but insists she can be a protector, a fighter in a way Ford can't.
Do you really think you can count on him to take care of people in a really difficult time? I don't, but you can count on me.
Sometimes you just don't feel safe.
The Liberal leader rolling out a plan to improve safety on public transit to encourage more people to ride.
We would invest in those protective barriers at the foot of the doors that would stop people from falling, stop people from falling over if being pushed, and would just control the flow of people.
The TTC has pegged the cost of those doors at some $4 billion.
That is the price of safety, then so be it.
Bonnie Crombie's also proposing to hire 300 special constables for Toronto, Ottawa, and the GO network, and fund more crisis intervention teams, as well as safety gear like cameras. Green Party leader Mike Schreiner joined activists outside a hospital in Chesley to highlight poor access to primary care and hospital closures.
It's not fair for rural communities. It's not fair for the people who live here that they don't have access to basic health care.
Chesley's hospitals only open Monday to Friday, something officials blame on a shortage of nurses. Tonight, Schreiner is asking his fellow candidates to put partisanship aside to face this tariff threat. The NDP leader is also asking for unity. Reporting live from Queen's Park, I'm Siobhan Morris. Sean, back to you.
Thanks, Siobhan. Investigators are working to determine the cause of a fire in the city that sent 2 people to the hospital. CTV's John Musselman will have the latest in just a few minutes. But first, let's take a live look outside the city tonight. It looks clear from up high, and it was a bit of a warmer day. Jessica Smith is warm inside for the start of our annual culinary celebration, Winterlicious. Jessica, how's it looking?
Looking pretty good inside. Outside it's not so bad, Sean, but you're right. It was a little bit of a mess earlier today. We saw a little bit of wet snow early on thanks to a Texas low sitting just south of the border. We're done with that for now. We do have high pressure moving in, so a nice clear night and a clear day tomorrow, but it is going to be very cold. Again, the last few hours we've seen those kind of bursts of flurries in the GTA, the heavier snow into that southwestern corner. Temperature-wise, still relatively mild, a fairly light northerly wind, but it is going to get significantly colder as we head in towards the evening, so you're going to want to layer up if you're heading out. Right now we're at 2 in the city. We're looking at 0 through Pearson, and tonight feeling like minus 21. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your forecast, and we'll be talking about where we are. We're here at Little Sister, but right now I'll send things back inside to you.
All right, thanks very much, Jess. Residents in 2 Toronto neighborhoods are speaking out after a series of attacks by coyotes. We'll tell you what's coming up, what they want the city to do to keep their dogs safer. 2 people were taken to hospital after a fire last night in the West End.
One of those people is in critical condition tonight. Investigators are working to determine what started the fire. CTV's John Musselman is live tonight at the scene on Oakwood Avenue with the latest. John?
Well, Sean, neighbors here describe a pretty intense fire when firefighters got on the scene, and investigators have been here all day long. And as you mentioned, they'll try to determine what caused this fire in the first place. The fire broke out around 9:45 last night at this home near Oakwood Avenue in St. Clair. There was heavy smoke and flames visible when firefighters arrived on the scene. A person was rescued from the home while a number of other people were able to get out safely. A man is in critical condition and a woman suffered serious injuries.
I looked out the window on the 3rd floor and I saw smoke billowing out from the corner there, and lots of lights, fire trucks, I think maybe even ambulance, police. I had heard the sirens before, but you hear them and you just ignore them. But there was just so much, and my dog was just so agitated. So eventually I thought, yeah, there's something happening nearby.
It's a well-managed home. We've never had any difficulties with the folks. They're good neighbors. As you can see from the property, there's the gazebo, there's, different things for the folks. They seem well cared for. I assume that the woman who was mentioned in the news is probably one of the caregivers. There's lots of staff that come and go, so it's really tragic.
Neighbors say the home is divided into multiple residences for people struggling with mental health or addictions. It is privately owned. At this point, the cause of the fire remains under investigation. And our information is the man who was pulled out of the home and sent to hospital was in his 50s, and he remains in critical condition. Reporting live at the scene, I'm John Musselman. I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, John. 2 teenagers have been charged in connection with a police investigation after rocks were thrown at moving vehicles in Markham and Whitchurch Stouffville. The incidents began in July of last year. York police say there are 29 incidents under investigation, including rocks being thrown at homes. An 18-year-old and 17-year-old are charged with mischief under $5,000. The 18-year-old is not being identified because he was a youth at the time. York police say more charges may be laid. And the OPP is investigating 11 similar incidents on Highway 48 in Markham. In one case, a driver was struck by a rock, causing them to lose consciousness and crash. 2 people suffered critical injuries as a result. At this time, the OPP have not announced any charges in these cases.
Residents of 2 Toronto neighborhoods gathered today to call for action from the city.
They say they're frightened and frustrated after a number of coyote attacks on dogs. CTV's Janice Golding has more.
There's no shortage of dog owners in the Liberty Village, Fort York area. Nor, however, is there a shortage of coyotes.
He came out of nowhere, grabbed her, He bit her back leg and he had her in his mouth.
As I was trying to fend off the coyote in the front, the coyote in the back did attack her.
Resident after resident describing frightening attacks on their beloved pets.
I just see a giant thing of fur tackling my dog.
It's like the 1 second I turned my eyes and it grabbed her from behind and I heard her scream.
That's why these pet owners gathered in Ordnance Triangle near Bathurst in the Lakeshore to call on the city to do more, alleging there have been 13 attacks in the last 9 days and 3 dogs killed over the past several months.
Toronto is not a wildlife sanctuary. We are entitled to enjoy our green spaces and feel safe.
It's scary for anyone to be outside now with their dog or without their dog. So I think the city needs to take action. They need to do something.
The city says it's received 34 complaints over the last 2 weeks and is concerned about encounters. The executive director of municipal licensing and standards saying, "We have stepped up our response to coyotes in the community, and city staff have been in the area every day to monitor coyote activity and have been using aversion techniques. So far, the coyotes have responded to these techniques and left the area when confronted. This shows that it is possible to safely coexist with these coyotes." But residents say aversion techniques aren't enough. MPP Chris Glover saying more needs to be done because these coyotes have lost their fear of humans.
These coyotes have been displaced. They've lost their, places where they can hunt wildlife, and they're now hunting dogs in the community, and it's a real danger to the community.
And residents are calling for much more from the city.
We would like continuous patrol.
More patrols, more environmental assessments before new developments go up, and for the safe relocation of coyote packs away from residential areas.
I think that they're acting aggressively because they don't have their same habitat that they used to. And so it's really sad because I feel sorry for them, but I also don't want to be scared to walk my dog.
Janice Golding, CTV News.
The Hamilton Wentworth District School Board says it's brought back some of the services it shut down in response to a possible cybersecurity incident. Yesterday afternoon, the board informed families its website, phones, and email were unavailable out of an abundance of caution. Schools were open today as expected, and the Director of Education shared an update saying phone lines are back up and running. Officials say remote learning courses are still on hold, and upcoming online registrations for kindergarten or out-of-catchment students could be affected.
A community of tiny homes has taken root at St. James Park.
While it may be a safe place for some to avoid the elements, area residents have safety concerns. CTV's Beth McDonnell reports.
This is the inside of my home, guys.
For Mike McDougall, his tiny home is a lot more comfortable than a tent. He can cook, use a sink with running water from a battery-powered pump, and it's heated with diesel fuel. The home also comes with a fire extinguisher, carbon monoxide detector, and fire alarm.
I kind of like my home. I like having the independence. I've always liked that, standing on my own. I had my last place was near about 9 years before it went, and I like to get back to it.
But the campers dotting St. James Park are a concern for many living and working nearby, like barber Sam Aki.
The diesel gas cans, right? There's a lot of kids that come through this park. I feel like if the tiny homes were in a more safer area instead of just a park in the middle of a city, it'd be an easier thing where you can actually house people.
The Downtown Concerned Citizens Organization says it sent a letter to the city about the homes 2 weeks ago. Structures and fuel sources are not permitted in any city parks.
Look, this is not acceptable. That people are not going to put up with this. They're not going to tolerate any more ideologies.
The group says the first tiny homes arrived in October and grew to 5 structures. It's concerned more tiny homes are not just going to be installed here in St. James Park, but other city parks as well. Area Councillor Chris Moy says he wants the homes removed, and the owner of the structures is operating outside of the city.
I feel that they're not safe, and again, they're not legal. And I have asked staff to look at some options as to how we can actually get these structures out.
Currently, right now, if those tiny homes weren't there, those people would be sleeping on the ground.
Ryan Donay is the founder of Tiny Homes. He says the people living in them are vetted by a community agency, and the cost of the homes, about $10,000 for materials, comes from private donations. The homes meant to help transition people to more stable housing.
Why don't we kill two birds with one stone? Why don't we get our parks back and house these people at the same time? These units are very, very light. They're very, very portable. It's very easy to roll a bunch in there, set it up, and get our parks back.
Moy says the city is studying the issue of having structures in an appropriate location. The city says it has spoken with the owner of Tiny Homes and outlined the expectation that the company and all Torontonians only engage in activities that respect municipal bylaws. Beth McDonnell, CTV News.
Ottawa's making a move it says will provide certainty to Canadians as tax season approaches. Changes to the capital gains tax are being deferred. The increase was set to take effect on June 25th of this year. It will not happen until January 1st, 2026. There are also plans to introduce new exemptions. Officials say those are intended to ensure most middle-class families do not pay more tax if the rate becomes official. The hike was set to raise the portion of capital gains on which companies pay tax from 1/2 to 2/3. It would also apply to individuals with capital gains earnings in excess of $250,000.
Meanwhile, another Liberal leadership candidate is promising to remove the carbon tax. Mark Carney says he would do it immediately if he becomes Prime Minister.
It has had some impact in terms of reducing our emissions, making things more efficient. But as I said in my remarks, and I think certainly colleagues would know and people would know, it has become very divisive for Canadians. It's the perceptions of the impact, the negative impacts of the carbon tax on households without fully recognizing the positive impacts of the rebate has made this more of a divisive issue. It's been fed by misinformation and lies, quite frankly, by the Leader of the Opposition, but okay.
The former Bank of Canada governor is suggesting an alternative to carbon pricing. He wants to reward people for greener choices, and that would include financial incentives for purchases of more energy-efficient appliances and electric vehicles, and improvements to home insulation. Carney says he would have big polluters help cover the costs of those choices. And there are now 5 candidates left in the leadership race after Jamie Baptiste announced he is no longer running. The Nova Scotia Liberal MP says the best way he can advance the issues he cares about is to support Carney. Baptiste was the only Indigenous candidate in the race and sought to put First Nations issues on the agenda during the contest. Those included reconciliation, the environment, and affordability.
Helicopter traffic has been indefinitely suspended at Reagan National Airport in Washington as the investigation continues into this week's deadly mid-air crash. CTV's Genevieve Beauchemin reports.
Recovery crews fighting wind, rain, and fog continue to scour the Potomac, searching for bodies and for clues.
Our dive teams are working in targeted areas, and additional Coast Guard assets will arrive this afternoon.
It's like part of the seat, actually.
Downstream boaters have found debris fields and handed over plane parts to investigators. The CRJ-700's black boxes, data and voice recorders are now in a lab, the contents under investigation.
We're starting the process of not only opening those up, but to begin the extraction of the data.
Data that could help answer key questions about the Army helicopter's flight path. The Black Hawk was on what's called Route 4, a path used by government medevac helicopters where aircraft are supposed to fly below 61 meters. Early data suggests it broke that ceiling, deviating above to a higher altitude and off course before the mid-air crash. That route and another used by helicopters are now closed until further notice. And the Army has launched its own investigation. Most of the victims have now been recovered as their families and communities struggle with the loss of so many lives. Skating phenom Spencer Lane, just 16, was killed alongside his mom, Christine. His father, now remembering his determined son who dreamt of the Olympics.
Was a force of nature. He just had amazing athletic abilities.
Investigators say they hope these high winds, the fog, the rain will lift and that conditions will improve. They say it will take months and months before there's a full report into this air disaster. Genevieve Beauchemin, CTV News at the Reagan National Airport.
In the Middle East, 3 male hostages will be released tomorrow as part of the ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas. They are 65-year-old Keith Siegel, 54-year-old Ofer Calderon, and 35-year-old Yarden Bibas. Saturday's release will be the 4th since the truce began January 19th. Israeli officials say around 80 hostages remain in Gaza. 33 are set to be freed during the first phase of the ceasefire that has also halted fighting in the territory for at least 6 weeks. Here in Canada, the federal Conservatives had a big year for fundraising in 2024. They nearly doubled the combined total of the other 2 major national parties. The Conservatives received nearly $42 million in donations. The Liberals brought in just over $15 million last year. The NDP collected more than $6 million. The average individual donations for all 3 parties were less than $200.
Still ahead, Toronto is seeing its highest rates of tuberculosis in decades. We'll explore what's behind the growing numbers.
And I'm Pat Foran. Coming up on Consumer Alert, if you're still paying off some of your holiday bills, you may be trying to save some money. One way to do that is to cancel subscription services you're paying for but not using. All those extra charges can add up fast. I'll have my reports just ahead.
And it has been an unsettled day, but a mild one, and we remain above seasonal for a little while longer before temperatures take a dip this evening. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long-range forecast as we head into the weekend and Groundhog Day on Sunday. And stay with us. We have another full night of great shows for you right here on CTV. Wonderful.
If saving money was one of your New Year's resolutions, a great place to start is by canceling subscription services that you're paying for but not using.
You may have streaming services, music apps, or meal programs you can cut to keep more money in your pocket. Here's Pat Foran and Consumer Alert. Pat?
Thanks, Pauline and Sean. There is nothing wrong with having a gym membership if you go to the gym, and there is nothing wrong with paying for a movie channel if you watch it. But if you're not using services that you're paying for, you're wasting your money. Many of us pay monthly subscriptions for exercise programs, streaming entertainment services, and buying food kits. All the extra charges each month can be substantial.
It's a year of savings for me.
Yuanith Juarez says she's been cutting back on unnecessary expenses, including subscription services.
Some of them I'm not using, and it's just wasting money.
Free trials from streaming to fitness apps and delivery memberships can quickly turn into monthly bills. Consumer Reports recommends setting a cancellation reminder in your phone's calendar. Do it when you sign up for a free trial so you won't forget and your credit card won't be charged. If you've agreed to auto-renewal, you'll likely get charged unless you take action. If you keep a membership after the free trial, watch out for price increases. Companies may raise rates once a promotional period ends. If the cost is higher than expected, threaten to cancel and ask for a discount.
There are tracking tools that can help you find and cancel services, but use caution. You may need to give them access to your account, so be sure to read their privacy policies very carefully.
Review your credit card statements from the past year to check for recurring charges. That's another good way to spot forgotten subscriptions. Canceling some memberships can be harder than others. Make sure you follow the process carefully and check your documents to confirm your commitment has ended.
After canceling subscription, keep an eye out on your bank or credit card statement. If a company keeps charging you anyway, file a dispute with your bank or credit card company.
And review your paid apps. Check your active subscriptions in the App Store or Google Play Store and cancel any you no longer need.
Keep up with what I don't need. It's time to cancel.
Getting rid of subscriptions you weren't using anyway is an easy way to cut costs and save money all year long. And watch out for texts or emails that say you owe money or your subscription will be canceled. Many of these can be scams trying to get you to click on links to steal your information. It's better to go directly to the company's website instead. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca.
And time now for a check on the weather. Jessica Smith is on location tonight, but she's not outdoors. She is indoors, checking out the dinner options, and not a bad assignment for a Friday evening, Jess.
Listen, it's the kickoff of Winterlicious, and the weather's been a little all over the place today, so being inside is probably the best place to be. And it's one of the great things that the city has to offer. Winterlicious is back for another year. I'm joined by Jennifer Gittins. We're here at Little Sister. Talk to me about what it means to be a part of Winterlicious. I know there are tons of great options for people, and you guys have special options for people who are maybe, you know, gluten-free or live kind of with a special diet.
The City of Toronto puts on a great program at Winterlicious, and we're so happy to be a part of it. We've been doing this since it really started. And yeah, like I said, they do such a great, Irene and her team do an amazing job. We put together a 3-course meal for $45. We try to cover all the bases with dietary restrictions. It can be a little bit challenging. We are a Dutch-Indonesian place, so it can be a little challenging, but we hope to have done a good job with it.
I think you absolutely have. So we're going to focus on some of the dishes that we have here. This is part of Winterlicious. Tell me what we have on the table behind you, because I'm looking at all this food and it looks absolutely amazing.
So right here, this is we're calling this our Indonesian steak frite. It is rendang spiced French fries, a fresh red pepper, and tomato sambal, and grilled flank steak with a fresh lime leaf galangal glaze. For our starters, one of our starters is our Arctic char ceviche with pickled eggplant and apple with fresh taro chips, deeply fried. We make those in-house. Our udang curry, which is our poached white shrimp in a fresh turmeric coconut broth, very lightly spiced, and just delicious.
Jennifer, I have to get to the weather because that is also part of my job today, but thank you so much for joining us. And it really is a little all over the place over the next couple of days with the weather, so you should come down to Little Sister and have some of their amazing food as a part of Winterlicious. Now, the forecast is a little bit iffy as we head into the weekend, so you may want to plan ahead when it comes to lots of extra layers. Now, temperature-wise, we're sitting at about 0 right now. Feels like -5, but that cold in northern Ontario is going to make its way towards us as we head through the overnight and into the day tomorrow. We are holding on with that active weather just south of the border right now, kind of making its way into the east end of the city and then out. We're looking at a winter weather travel advisory in towards areas from London right through to Hamilton and Niagara. Also some snow squall watches there, and then that cold warning up towards our friends in Barrie. So just keep that in mind. It gets cold tonight and it stays cold into the day tomorrow. Your low tonight at -12, feeling like -21. You're feeling that chill in a northerly wind at about 20 kilometers an hour. Now you go up towards Bancroft, it feels like -33 tonight, and that's thanks to this jet stream dipping down. And it gets really cold as we head into this evening and into your Saturday. But don't worry, the cool down is short-lived. Now, temperature-wise, as we make our way in towards the day tomorrow, yes, brilliant sunshine. We've got lots going on in the way of some beautiful sunshine. But again, it is going to be cold thanks to high pressure moving in and that dip in the jet stream. As we make our way in towards the rest of our weekend, we look ahead to Groundhog Day, and it gets a little messy thanks to another system making its way out of the prairies that will start in northern Ontario and then make its way down. Now, as we head through the rest of our evening, all that active weather pushes out. Again, tomorrow, high pressure making it nice and clear out there, but it's going to be very cold until the cloud cover rolls in the evening. Now, we do warm up pretty nicely as we head in towards Sunday, but again, it comes at a price. So as far as Groundhog Day goes, seeing that shadow, I don't know, guys, but maybe that's a good thing depending on how you like your weather. As we head in towards the day tomorrow, again, we're doing but it will feel much colder than that, but we welcome in a brand new forward to. Heading into say again, Groundhog Day, we bounce all the way up to +1 and we stay there right throughout the weekend. And as we head in towards your Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we settle into the first full week of February. It is going to be a little bit changeable when it comes to your temperatures and your conditions. So just pack for everything. We don't really get to seasonal and stay there for all that long. Now, it is Winterlicious. Today's the first day, and if you don't want to be outside, guys, you don't have to be outside. You can come in and get their version of steak frites. Now, I will do my best to share with everybody back at the station, but no promises, guys. For now, I'll send things back to you.
All right, thanks very much, Jess. And the new Superman movie may have found its kryptonite as a lawsuit threatens to delay its release. We'll have details after the break. Toronto saw its highest levels of tuberculosis in more than 20 years last year.
Public health officials are saying the rise underscores the challenges of fighting the disease, one that's plagued humanity for centuries. CTV's John Ventavale-Rao has more on the recent spike.
My name is Pasha Killen and I live in Gangswalja.
In this video, a woman from Nunavik describes her experience having tuberculosis.
When I had TB, I didn't feel any stigma or anything.
TB has long been a problem in Inuit communities. where a lack of healthcare access and overcrowding in some places have thrown progress in reverse.
Not only are we not progressing towards reducing the cases, but we're doing worse than we were previously.
And a new report by a group called Stop TB Canada, drawing attention to a disease Ottawa pledged to eradicate. Only doctors say much more needs to be done if they want to reach that goal.
If anything, the rates have been trickling up over the last decade.
In fact, in Toronto last year, 375 people were diagnosed with TB, up from the year before and the highest in 2 decades. Usually affecting the lungs, those who get sick are often migrants from a part of the world where TB is more common, an infection that can lay dormant for years.
So they came with that sort of silent sleeping TB. You would never know unless you get tested.
Just this week, Kansas City sounded the alarm after a TB outbreak killed 2 and infected 67 others. Symptoms can include a cough that lasts more than 3 weeks, coughing up blood, fatigue, and weight loss. There are antibiotics, but the report found several drugs that can address more challenging cases aren't easily available in Canada, especially those that are child-friendly.
Right now, we're relegated to something that looks like 18th century alchemy, where you have to grind pills down, hide them in all kinds of foods so that the children take them.
They say pharmaceutical companies don't market some drugs here because the number of cases is still relatively low, and they say there's not enough money to be made here. But doctors want to see better access, calling for the approval process to be sped up and simplified. John Venavelli-Rao, CTV News, Toronto.
As respiratory virus season continues, COVID-19 rates appear to be slowing down. Public Health Ontario published its latest update looking at the week of January 19th through the 25th. While 9 people died of COVID, less than 10% of lab tests for the virus came back positive, and that's considered a low rate of spread for the first time since late June. RSV levels remained moderate and flu levels remained high, and nearly 1,500 Ontarians were admitted to hospital for treatment of those respiratory infections.
UNICEF has named its newest Goodwill ambassador, and you may recognize him if you're an avid TikTok user. Kabi Lemay is the most followed account on the social media platform with over 162 million subscribers gained from his parodies of life hack videos. The 24-year-old was named an ambassador for the UN Agency for Children this week on a trip to his birth country of Senegal. Lemay met with children and young people who were driving positive change in their communities, said he's honored to be part of the organization that puts children's rights front and center every single day.
The newest Superman movie was supposed to fly into theaters this summer, but it's facing a new legal obstacle. The estate of Superman co-creator Joe Shuster has filed a lawsuit in U.S. federal court in New York. A copy shared by Deadline claims Warner Brothers Discovery and DC Comics do not have the rights to release the film in Canada, the UK, and other key markets. The suit argues those copyrights have expired according to British legal tradition. Warner Brothers Discovery says it disagrees and will fight the claim.
You'll never replace Becca.
I'm not trying to.
And a release date has been set for the newest film from Canadian director David Cronenberg. The Shrouds tells the story of a tech entrepreneur grieving the loss of his wife. It screened last year at the Cannes and Toronto International Film Festivals. It will debut at select theaters April 18th with a wider release the following week.
Well, some of the biggest names in music spanning generations and genres converged in California last night to help victims of the Los Angeles wildfires.
Flows and flows of angel hair and ice cream castles in the air.
Performers included Joni Mitchell with a rendition of Both Sides Now and Dave Grohl, who reunited with the surviving members of Nirvana. Musical heavyweights performed across 2 concert venues last night. The money raised will be used to provide short-term relief and fund efforts to prevent future fire disasters.
Toronto's own The Weeknd released his new album overnight, debuting one of the songs on Jimmy Kimmel Live. That's the song Open Hearts, although fans also got a sneak preview of some of the other tracks during a show in Brazil a few months ago. The new album is called Hurry Up Tomorrow, and its release was delayed from last week due to the wildfires in Southern California. The Weeknd is also planning a new stadium tour across North America with shows at the Rogers Centre in July.
The Grammy Awards are this weekend, and the list of stars taking part in the ceremony just got a bit bigger.
And for a fortnight there we were forever running.
Taylor Swift is set to be one of the presenters at the show, where her album, The Tortured Poets Department, is up for 6 trophies. Fellow nominee SZA was also confirmed as a presenter today, as was Will Smith. Nominees Sabrina Carpenter, Chappell Roan, and Billie Eilish are among the performers taking the stage at Sunday's show. It'll once again be hosted by Trevor Noah, and it'll raise funds for the California wildfire relief efforts.
And still ahead, with tariffs coming, there is a push for consumers to buy Canadian. Details coming up after the break.
The president will be implementing tomorrow a 25% tariffs on Mexico, 25% tariffs on Canada, and a 10% tariff on China.
Updating our top stories, the U.S. plans to impose tariffs on Canadian imports beginning tomorrow. The announcement was made at the White House today and confirmed by the U.S. president. Details on what exactly will be affected have not been announced, although the president suggested Canadian oil will be included at a lower rate and at a later date.
Tax your #1 customer. I'll tell you, no one does, except Donald Trump.
Meanwhile, officials here at home were working on a Canadian response. Today, provincial party leaders were speaking out about the tariffs while on the campaign trail.
Came out of nowhere, grabbed her. He bit her back leg, and he had her in his mouth.
Residents of the Liberty Village and Fort York neighborhoods were speaking out today about recent coyote attacks in the area. According to residents, there have been 13 attacks in the last 9 days, and 3 dogs have been killed over the past several months. They want the city to do more, including a continuous patrol and the safe relocation of coyote packs away from residential areas.
Remember to keep up to date day and night at ctvnewstoronto.ca and by downloading the CTV News app. And if you have a news tip, photos, or video of breaking news, please let us know.
Toronto stocks slipped today from yesterday's record high close. Andrew Bell of BNN Bloomberg brings us the latest in business.
Hello there. Canada's benchmark stock index edged down 1% today after closing at a new record high in the previous session. U.S. stocks also dropped after the White House said President Donald Trump will move forward tomorrow with tariffs aimed at Canada, Mexico, and China. The TSX Composite was weighed down in part by the cross-border pipeline giant Enbridge, which slipped 2%. Big oil stocks also dropped amid fears that Trump will introduce duties hampering Canadian oil exports. Gold stocks were weak as bullion fell from a record high. But shares in Celestica, the maker of complex electronic assemblies, jumped to a record high amid hopes that the building boom to run AI programs will continue. The Canadian dollar was under pressure again. It changed hands at 68.83 US cents, down 17 cents. West Texas Intermediate oil changed hands at $72.53 US a barrel, down 20 cents. Our latest fix on Western Canadian Select oil, $57.99, up 23 cents. And the TSX Composite finished at 25,533.1, down just over 275 points. That's the latest in business. I'm Andrew Bell of BNN Bloomberg.
The Business Report is brought to you by Canadian Western Bank, the bank built for business.
As the threat of tariffs looms over the economy, some people are doing what they can to buy Canadian.
But when it comes to items like food, it can be easier said than done. CTV's Heather Wright has more.
So I've got decaf tea, which is a British tea.
When Ellen does her grocery shopping, she tries to pay attention to where products are from.
This is a local yogurt.
And while she aims to buy local or Canadian-made products, it's not always possible.
So where are these from?
It just says USA.
And is there a Canadian alternative?
Not that I'm aware of.
With U.S. President Donald Trump vowing to impose 25% tariffs on Canadian goods on Saturday, and Canada set to retaliate with its own tariffs on U.S. imports, consumers are bracing for an increase in prices at the grocery store. And some have already stopped buying American goods.
I think we're being treated poorly. I think we're being bullied. And I'd like to do what I can.
Depending on the product, there often is a Canadian option. All of these apples are either grown in the United States or Canada, but depending on the time of year, it is very hard to buy certain things from this country. For example, all of these oranges are imported from the United States or other countries.
But after decades of free trade, it can be hard to know what is Canadian and what isn't.
Kraft peanut butter is made in Montreal with peanuts from the United States with a brand owned by an American company. So is that a Canadian product or an American product?
Dairy, eggs, and meat are often Canadian products, but a lot of seafood and packaged goods are imported from the United States.
Canada has drawn up an extensive list of U.S. products to be taxed, with prices on both sides of the border expected to rise quickly once any tariffs are put in place. Heather Wright, CTV News, Toronto.
And even without concerns around tariffs and buying Canadian, we are about to enter a time of year where grocery prices tend to rise. Big chains and independent stores often freeze price increase requests from suppliers between November and early February. Industry analysts say it's a long-standing practice that helps stabilize prices during the winter holidays when consumers are more price sensitive.
The city today published a trove of transportation data that officials use to keep Toronto moving. One major data set focuses on traffic volumes and speeds dating back to 1993. Details on more than 1.2 billion vehicles are included, which city staff use to inform traffic management and infrastructure initiatives. Also included is a data set on the use of Toronto's bike lanes. It breaks down how much and when they're used as the province plans to remove several of them. Mayor Olivia Chow said the data sets are invaluable in managing congestion and keeping users safe. And speaking of getting around town, there's a major subway closure to warn you about this weekend. Line 1 trains will stop running at 11 tonight between St. George and St. Andrews stations. This due to planned track work. Service won't resume until Monday morning. Shuttle buses will operate during tonight's closure, but not on Saturday or Sunday. The TTC is advising riders to use the Yonge side of the Line 1 line, where they can connect to surface routes.
The Toronto Raptors host Chicago tonight after reeling off 5 straight wins. They haven't done that since 2022.
Above 500 no matter what happens on Friday night. Here's Shed with the 3, and that 3 is good.
The Raptors' latest win was Wednesday, a 106-82 victory over Washington. Overall, Toronto has won 7 of its past 8 games. This evening, they face a Bulls team that is 10th in the Eastern Conference.
Izzy Daniel has to score for Toronto, otherwise it is over. Daniel, the rookie, in, missed the net!
On the ice, the Scepters were in Montreal last night, taking on the top team in the league. Toronto tied the game 3-3 with less than 5 minutes to go, but lost in the shootout. They play Ottawa tomorrow.
Still ahead, gearing up for Groundhog Day. We'll check in with one of Canada's furry forecasters ahead of their big day.
And a reminder, the CTV News at 6 podcast is available as a download every weeknight. And a special hello to those of you listening to the newscast live on News Talk 1010.
Get Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
Hey there, Toronto. I'm Teddy Wilson.
And I'm Nicole Servinas, so welcome to Things to Know TO.
Welcome indeed. So each week our show shines a spotlight on some of the awesome businesses, services, initiatives, and events right here in our fantastic GTA community.
It's companies like these that make Toronto one of the world's greatest, most vibrant cities, and also a pretty great place to work, play, and live in.
Well said. So join us every Saturday on Things to Know TO.
And don't forget, you can catch all of our episodes on our website, thingstoknowto.ca.
Finally tonight, Groundhog Day is this weekend.
And the stage is set for one of Canada's furry forecasters to make his prediction. What will be the decision from Shubenacadie Sam on Sunday morning? Well, folklore says if the groundhog sees its shadow, winter will last for 6 more weeks. If there is no shadow, it's a sign of an early spring. Officials in Nova Scotia say Sam has about a 45% success rate, and that is better than his fellow rodents, Wyerton Willie and Punxsutawney Phil.
That was difficult to read all that.
Punxsutawney and Shubenacadie.
Let's check back in with Jess Smith, who's in the best place in town right now.
Listen, we're in Little Sister. I have my to-go bag here because, you know, I can't leave without taking a little something home. But it is going to be one of those nights where you want to maybe be inside at one of the amazing restaurants in the city. That's a part of Winterlicious because it is very cold as we head in towards this evening. Right now, at 0, feeling like -5, but temperatures are dropping steadily as we head through the overnight and into the day tomorrow. So if you're heading out early this evening, it's not so bad. We approach midnight and it gets really cold into those double-digit lows with those wind chill values that are into that -20 range. Now, heading into our Saturday, lots of sunshine, but we stay well below seasonal. Into Sunday, when it comes to Groundhog Day, pretty overcast, so I don't know if there's any kind of luck for seeing a shadow, but we'll keep an eye on that. In towards that first full week of February, we do this yo-yo again, so fairly seasonal for Monday, below seasonal for Tuesday, and we do that kind of weather ricochet as we head throughout the week ahead. I'll send things back inside to you guys. I'll try to bring some stuff back, guys, but no promises.
Thanks,
very much, Jess. Bon appetit.
Okay, be sure to join Heather Butts tonight at 11 for CTV National News, followed by Zoraida Allman with our next local newscast at 11:30. In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime at CP24 and online at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Jessica and all of us at CTV News, thanks for watching. Have a very good night.
Night.